All right, we are live and welcome back to another episode of the Big Sports Podcast. This is actually episode 29, part two. If you've been following the Fix Sports Podcast, especially in this season, season five, you know that I've been doing a number of interviews, but I started separating my interviews from my actual the regular podcast that I want to do because I want to make sure that the interview is focused on an interview. So today is a good one today, but season five, episode 29 of the Big Sports Podcast. As you know, I am your host, Joseph Ford. This is the realest, blackest, and funniest sports podcast that you've ever heard in your entire life. We coming straight from the South. And that's how we do it. Audio shop talk right in your ear hole. Brought to you by yours truly. And remember, our website is at www.freedomtrainradio.com. Right? It's your home for some of the best podcasting you can ever come across. Every Monday, make sure you be tuned in for this Fix Sports Podcast, and especially this week because you're getting hit in your head with two parts. So I know y'all wondering who this gentleman is on the screen. Let me get to that. Trust me, I'm gonna get to that because he's been somebody who I've known. I feel like all my life, and
Yeah.
trust me, I like to talk about. But let me get my housekeeping out the way. So make sure you visit us www.freedomtrainradio.com. Make sure you check out all of our podcasts. I want to give a shout out to my fellow podcasters on the network, Patrick Irvin, Shelby Davis, Queen Candace, and Enigma September. Shout out to everybody. Also, Shakara Jenkins, she works behind the scene with us. She helps me a lot in getting a lot of interviews scheduled and making sure things happen. So I want to give a special shout out to Shakara. Make sure you support the Fix Sports Podcast on Patreon. As you can see at patreon.com/fix. Your contributions will go into helping this podcast grow, helping the overall network grow, so we can bring more material to you, bring better material to you. We can do more and within our community to help more people. This is more than just a podcast where we get on and talk. We try to make sure that we create resources, we create lines of communication and open up things for our community. So, gentleman on the screen with me, I first met him, I was in elementary school. Um, it was summer camp at here in Tallahassee. Is a community center called Walker Ford Community Center. And that's when my brother and I met his brother, met him and his brother. One of the earliest memories I have is them trying to teach us how to do backflips. I never got it. I never got it, but they
Yeah.
mastered it. So I'm still jealous on that. You know, that's one of the
Oh
earliest
man.
memories. But
Yeah.
we've stayed in touch over the years. He went to Rickards High School, the same as me. He's 2 years older than me, and very, very, very one of the biggest inspirations in my life. He might not know it, but one of the biggest inspirations in my life because persevering is an understatement to say that about this young man. Um, his name is Marlon Napier. He was a standout athlete here in Tallahassee, Florida, at James S. Rickards High School, as well as Florida State University. And we're talking about in the time with Bobby Brown. So this young man, trust me, he has whatever it is, he has it. He transitioned from playing football to getting his Bachelor's of Science in Engineering with minors in math and physics. You don't hear that a lot. You don't hear that a lot. He's a he's an engineer, a project manager, a motivational speaker, soon to be MBA graduate. So congratulations on that. And
Appreciate
we're
that.
here to talk about his journey as an athlete, but also his transition to a life after sports. This is our life after sports series. So once once again, I want to give it up from a good friend, Mr. Marlon Napier. Welcome.
Oh man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you for having me on. Like you said, Joe, we go way, way, way back, man. And yeah, I think I can still probably hit a backflip now. You know, probably not as clean, but I can still probably
Right.
hit at least one.
Good. I still can't, so so it's all good. But man, I I talked to some of the other classmates that I graduated from Rickards with, Doc Love, me and him.
Yeah.
Actually, me and Doc Love talk a lot about our time at Rickards. And you come up in the conversation sometimes because of the nature of the journey that you were on. A lot of people try to tell you what you couldn't do,
Right.
but you are, you know, when you watching these motivational videos and you're watching these speakers on YouTube or whatever platform that you're watching on, and you hear people talking about perseverance, never giving up. But if you've never seen it, it's one thing to hear about it, but it's another thing to see it. And like I say, you embody that and more. So it's like
I appreciate that, man.
I don't think you know how many people that you've inspired, man. Like you really, like those who came behind you, like we was like, dang, look at Marlon. Like we was tuning into those games, and we was like front and center. Like, there go Marlon. I know him. There go Marlon. But the fact that the odds were against you, and you overcame all of that and made it happen. That's one of the main reasons. But you're a great person as well. Beyond all of that, you're a great person. So we had to make this happen. I had to make this happen.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. That's all God, man. I can't really take full credit or anything like that. God put some amazing people in my life, especially with my mom. That really instilled that, just really going after it, never giving up. That attitude of, the only thing that can stop you is you, So that's what I really took, and I ran with that, and that's really part of my journey. So that we'll dive into a little bit in this conversation.
So I know you, but for my audience, for those who don't know, can you give some background information about yourself? Because I want to start at the beginning. Give some background information about yourself and how you were first introduced to the game of football.
Oh man, well, quick background. I'm actually from originally Polk County. I was born in Winter Haven. My grandparents lived in Fort Meade, Florida, where my family is. Mm-hmm. My mom and dad were attending FAMU, and that's where my journey began, coming into FAMU, coming to Tallahassee. So we moved to Tallahassee, I think it was 86, Okay. And then from there, it was, my mom bought myself, my brother Jarvis, who's a chef, dope chef, by the way, Jarvis Napier. She bought some football uniforms, little kids with football uniforms. So I had a San Francisco 49ers. He had a Dallas Cowboys. Cousin had a New York Giants. So we thought we were little football players back in the day. We really wanted to get into that. But so I started school, pretty much was raised in Tallahassee, Florida, started school, and I think it was in elementary school. I was maybe 7 years old. I got introduced to the game of football, outside of just street football with the, the fellow guys in the neighborhood, with the Hawks flag football program. And we used to practice at NIMS Middle School. Yeah. And we played in country club in that area. That's where our games were. So that's where I first got started with football and fell in love with football. And everything was, watching sports, watching it on TV. You wasn't allowed to watch TV as much as a kid. So, when you could watch sports, you watch sports, and you're outside, trying to imitate guys like Barry Sanders and Bo Jackson, Jerry Rice, some of the greats that were known for their work ethic. So that's how I got, introduced to the games of football.
That's what's up. Yeah, I remember those uniforms. I think my brother and I, we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins. So and we talking about creamsicle Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah. Man.
We had that full collision with them little weak pads. That was funny.
Oh yeah. You thought you was doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember those flag football days because I played for the Bears. I played with Jason Davis and Jay Leary. So
and Jet. Shout out to Jet. Yeah. Jay Leary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that was like your beginning of organized football as well.
Yeah, that was my beginning of organized football. And from there it just, matriculated, from just flag football to the Jay Gaither Giants. So Jay Gaither Pee Wee Jr., where I had some phenomenal, awesome coaches there. Coach Chester Brown, who was a Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys. So I remember seeing his ring. Coach Billups, Coach Coates. And then transitioned into junior with Coach Eddie. Which Coach Eddie Williams was a big inspiration. And from there, it was on to V. James S. Rickards High School. well, I had some phenomenal coaches there too. Coach Algie Hendricks was a big inspiration. Was a really good coach that really filled some voids in my life at the time. And then I had, another standout was Coach Sam Carter that has
Yeah.
Carter's Corner. And Sam is one of those guys that if you can, Sam can make you believe anything. He can make a fish believe that he don't need water, and that fish is gonna believe it. So yeah.
Right. That's cool. So, and what's great about you is you have a brain, and you're not afraid to show it. You're not you from the beginning. You've always presented yourself as more than just an athlete. So, other than football, what other interests did you have that kind of kept you stimulated, kept you going as a child?
Oh man, one thing, my mom kept me in the church, and that was one big influence in my journey in music. By the age of 5, I was playing the drums in church, singing in choir. So I ended up in the boys choir of Tallahassee for a while, which shout out to, the boys choir of Tallahassee. I was one of the original members back in '96. Also other sports I was into was, baseball at the time. So I played with the Cubs. And I also did a little bit of, I did weightlifting, which was a big passion that turned into later on, and also basketball. So just doing a little bit of everything. But the biggest thing was my mom drove academics. My dad, even though we wasn't in the same household, my dad was a huge, proponent of academics. He was a professor at the University of Florida for a little while, a professor at what's the name of the school? Santa Fe College in Gainesville. Decided he wanted to teach high school. Taught, I think it was at Buholt, and then they moved to California. So he's currently teaching out there. He's won Teacher of the Year in LA a couple times. So
that's cool.
That was a big thing. So I knew that I had drilled into me, education first, God first, education second, then sports. And I had to kind of keep it in that order. And if I didn't, my mom would always threaten to pull me out of sports if my grades slipped. So, can't try a black woman.
Right. Especially when they're serious about that education. Yeah, what's the great part is that, like you said, you use your education, you use weightlifting, you use these things to help enhance yourself. Because what a lot of people don't know, and we're going to get more to that later in the interview, you turn weightlifting into something that actually helped you, and you were stronger than a lot of people that we're watching on TV. That we was like, Greg Jones is a big dude.
Yeah.
And come to find out you were stronger than him, it's like, well, Greg, so.
Well, I'm not going to take all of that. We have our different areas. I probably could, out squat Greg maybe, but other than that, Greg had everything else, man. Greg was one of those athletes he's a once in a lifetime athlete as far as his frame. He came from a really good family genetic. Joe Frazier is his dad's first cousin, I think, if I remember that. So, Greg's dad looked like a beast, at his age when he would come see us. So Greg was one of those like Herschel Walker types. He didn't like lifting weights. He did not like lifting weights. And when he did touch weights, he was, crazy out the water. So I was right behind Greg as far as, strength. But that I can't say enough about that dude. That was a physical specimen. That's why I worked so hard, because you had guys like Greg. He worked hard too. Don't get me wrong. I don't want nobody to think he slacked off. He was a hard worker. But my thing was, I might not have your height. I might not have some of your, abilities as your frame, or just that your genetic makeup. But what I can do is I can control how I work. And so if I can outwork you, then I can get to where I need to go. So that was one of my motivational things. It's just you're not going to outwork me.
And your work ethic is one of the greatest things that has helped you become as successful as you are. So everybody listening, like, you got to put in work. You have to. There's no way around that. You have to put in work to get where you need to go. So Rickards High School. So I interviewed Sam Carter, interviewed Jarrell Webb, interviewed Bruce Fennell. I know Keezy Kanye's. I interviewed her. I know some people I'm forgetting. I apologize if I forget your name, but Oh, Justin Hill. I interviewed Justin Hill.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we come from an environment at Rickards that was different from others.
Right.
As far as the demands on us physically, mentally, emotionally, you couldn't be soft and play football at Rickards.
Nah, not at all.
So can you give us about your specific experience at Rickards and one of the greatest lessons that you learned playing high school football?
Oh man, well, Rickards High School is one of those places. It's it's a place of pressure, and you know that pressure develops diamonds. But
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those places that'll test you, and some people can't make it. They break.
Right.
Being in the environment in the South Side of Tallahassee, going to Rickards High School, you dealt with more than just what was on the field. You had a lot of off the field issues. You had things from just things from your South Side, underfunded neighborhoods, that you would normally have. So it wasn't anything for you to know that, oh, somebody got shot or seen somebody get shot.
Right.
It wasn't any of that. So you brought that dynamic into it. So on the field was a place that you could really like block everything out and really have something else to focus on. That was a positive thing. So one of the biggest lessons I learned, I never forget it. It was my sophomore year. And I moved up, I was playing varsity my sophomore year. I moved up in the freshman year, back down, back up. And I was playing varsity football. And I get out there and I see, some of the bigger guys out there. You had, Travis Walker, who also has my same nickname, Freight Train, who was a beast. You had, your Elton Pattersons, your Antonio Carters, Devin Rispress, who's probably one of the best running backs I've ever encountered in my life, still to this day.
Right.
Jerry Nelson. So one of the biggest lessons was, to get out there and have no fear. And I remember Coach Hendricks put me out there, and I was playing defense. So behind me, I had Thomas Rusley, who goes by Thomas Rusolini. That's doing some acting. That has, his a show on Amazon. So you guys check that out. But he was one of the hardest hitters. Jerry Nelson was running over everybody in practice. It was I think it was Jerry Nelson and fullback. It might have been either Lorenzo Henry or Chris. It was either Chris or Lorenzo. And they were running people over, and it was like, Napier, get out there. And I get out there, and I already know what's coming. So I'm thinking, man, I gotta, I'm normally running the ball and running over people, but I gotta man up and hit this dude. Right. And it was one of those things of conquering fears. So in life, we have so many times that we're afraid, to succeed. We let that fear, overcome and take us. And a lot of people, they stand still. Well, I always had that fight mode instead of the flight mode. So I was always taught that fear is false evidence appearing real. So I just knew, all right, well, I may get ran over. If I do, it's expected. But if I can hit this dude, then it's going to make a name. I remember, I never forget it. It was like a 24 power play. And I'm the coming outside linebacker scraping over. So I know my middle linebacker is getting picked off by a fullback. And it's me and Jerry Nelson and that had to meet. And I remember I just was like, okay, I gotta go. And I hear Kevin Randolph and coaches, he coming. And I still remember for a second what he did to the guy before me in that position. He put him out. So I came up, I was like, forget it, and just went all in. And when the play was over, I don't tell too many people this. This was the first time I closed my eyes when I hit, because I was like, Lord, I need some help. And I end up really, really putting a stick on Jerry. Mm-hmm. Jerry gets up, ball's behind him. He's fumbled. I get up. I'm hyped, but halfway don't know what's going on because I closed my eyes. Right. And it was at that moment that I was like, okay, I can play this. These dudes, the same as me. They put their pads on like I put mine on, and it just kept happening. And so that lesson of perseverance and sticking with it, no matter what adversity you've seen in front of you, was really one of the biggest lessons I learned, and they just continued to build off that. So the end of my sophomore year, junior year, I was starting fullback, blocking for Devin Rispress, who we set the rushing record at Rickards High School with Devin. And then my senior year did the same thing again, and we broke that record with Mike Fisher behind me. And I had shout out to Cedric Reese too. When I took some injuries, Cedric stepped in and was also a beast of a fullback as well. So that was the thing, is just persevering. I still remember Ricky Bell telling me, Napier, you got some perseverance, son. You know how you talk. He's like, you know what perseverance is? Well, you can't be hurt because you got to write your letter, son. You're going to write your letter. And that was really one of the things that, stood out for me on that field was, you got to persevere. You have to really give it your all. Sam Carter always said it best is, you never know when it's going to be your last play. So make this play your best play, because at a split second, this game can be over. And then what are you going to have, and you're going to live with regrets or no regrets. And I chose no regrets.
Nah, man. And I'm excited that you chose that. Like, that's the path that you took. Because like I say, because I'm 2 years behind you. So coming up, like when I'm in JV, we're looking up at the top field at you guys up there just like thumping, because we can hear it. We can hear the thump when you hit. And like you say, you blocked for Devin Respers and Michael Fisher. So for others who don't know this, those two, I have a list of my top 5 greatest football players I've seen with my own 2 eyes. And so it's Sammy Knight, Michael Fisher, Devin Respers, Antonio Carter, and Antoine Bolden.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I had a chance to fill all of them.
And I believe that Devin Respers and Michael Fisher are like just 2 of Florida's greatest running backs and just high school greatest running backs ever. I put them against any 2 people. But you were the common factor into both of these gentlemen breaking these records and continuing to just go on and just be great as far as running backs. Like, how did that feel for you to know that you are a part of these record-breaking seasons back to back? Like, because without that fullback, a lot of this stuff don't happen. So how did that feel?
Oh man, well, it feels great, man. Devin and I go way back too, to Walker Ford Community Center. Shouts out to Coach Rispress, who's now a phenomenal coach. He's coached at Rickards High School. He's coaching the Gaston County. Phenomenal guy. Has the record breakers, what they're doing the 707, and he's putting a lot of kids in college, same way Sam Carter did us. So it was phenomenal knowing that I had Devin a year older than me, and then Mike 2 years younger than me. That I was able to be a part of both of those guys' journey. Because it was a lot of times you find yourself making a block and you're watching them make magic happen on the field. And at times you have to pull yourself out of it, like, hey man, the play's still going on, because they would do some phenomenal things. I was just blessed and fortunate to be a part of it. You don't really take it for what it was during the time frame, but it was kind of like hindsight looking back on it. I can really say I was honored, to play with those men on the field. And in fact, all the 5 athletes you named, I played with. And that was an honor for me with all of those guys. But just having Devin and Mike do back-to-back years, and I still remember Mike's Fisher first carry came because Devin Rispress told the coach, hey, let the young guy get some touches. And he was letting Mike get some touches. And then we had Kobe Smith, who came and did Coach Smith now, who's coaching at Louisville. I think he's at Louisville. Phenomenal athlete as well. I was responsible for getting him his first touch because I saw it when Devin got Mike his first touch. So it was just one of the, when I say touch, carry on the field, first actual ball carry in the game. So it was just phenomenal, man. Just thinking back on that, man, I was a part of that history, that still stands right now. So
yes. Like, we talking about greatness, like true greatness. And that's a shout out to both you and Devin for understanding that even though we out here breaking these records, even though we out here doing these things, let's get these young guys some work, because they are the new breed that's coming in. If we want to keep this legacy going, let's go ahead and get these young men some work. So shout out to you two. Right. That's real leadership, though.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
No problem. So recruiting. when it came to time to transition from high school to college. Like I said, you had a lot of naysayers. You had a lot
Right.
of people who was telling you that you can't play college football. So
Right.
in hearing that, what were the thoughts that were going through your head? How did you deal with that? How did you block some of that out, or did you internalize some of that?
What I did is I used that as fuel. When Sam, AC, Devin, Kendra Plummer, and Ed Jenkins, some of the greats, Elton Patterson, we always had this saying, and it was D1 or no one. And it really didn't mean D1 or no one, but it was, I think we're striving for D1. Some of the guys didn't. Like, we had guys that could play D1, like Sean Kelly, shouts out to him, that his goal was to play at FAMU because that's where his dad played. Dad played in the league. And he reached his goal, and he was a monster. I remember he had the NCAA record for sacks. And he was playing at FAMU, and Sean was just phenomenal fast, a defensive end that could run a 10-600 in high school. Like, I still remember him going to state doing that. But what I did is I internalized that, man, Marlon, you can't play, you too short, you too small, you this. And I internalized it and used it as fuel. So what I started doing was like, all right, during lunch, everybody else is eating lunch. I grab my lunch and I'm headed to the weight room. I would lift weight room. I would do weight room first period, or a little bit before first period, we had football class. And sometimes football would lift or we're on the field, back then. And then I also had, I was on the weightlifting team, which I had the 183 class record my senior year. But what I did was I took that extra time to say, okay, I could either do what everybody else is doing, or I can go put in this work. So shouts out to Sean Kelly. Me and Sean decided we wouldn't really eat lunch. We'd eat lunch, but we'd eat it walking down the stairs. If you've been to Rickards High School, it's a million stairs coming from the lunchroom back down all the way to the weight room, which is at the lowest level of the hill. And we would eat walking down, and we'd get in the weight room and we'd grind. And that was before practice. That was every day. And that's what I used as that fuel that was saying, you can't do this. All right, I'm going to do this. You can't do this. I'm going to do this. Because my thing was, I wasn't going to allow another man or woman to tell me what I wasn't able to do. Because at the end of the day, when I strip away down your height, your gender, your build, your God-given talents, what stands is your work. How much work you put in, how much effort did you really put in? So my thing was, I'm gonna put my best effort forward, and then I'm just gonna pray and just have faith and let God do the impossible. That seems impossible because, like I said, I'm a man of faith, and it says faith without works is dead, which means I need to put in my work. I can't just ask God to bless me if I'm not willing to get out there to be blessed, in a position to be blessed. So that was my thing, man, is just use that as motivation instead of a deterrence to keep me from, reaching my goal.
Right. And man, look, you did it. Like, you can't, you're one of the people, like, really, if somebody tell you can't do it, it's like, all right, whatever. I'm laughing at you now because I know what I can do. I know I can defy the odds. I can go beyond even what I expect I can do. So that's just phenomenal, man.
Right. So, I mean, even
go ahead. Go ahead.
Even the story of me playing at Florida State was something crazy because my senior year of high school, I got hurt, had a bad turf toe injury and a little bit of an MCL injury, and it kept me out some of the season. And I came back before I got hurt. I was one of the leading rushers in Florida. I think I had like 27 carries, like 420 something yards, and a few touchdowns, before my injury. And so I was a player to watch. We used to do the big man players to watch on your team. There's myself, Ed Jenkins, Sean Kelly, and DeMarcus Johnson with some of them. I think it might have been, I think KP or Marcus Hall might have been there too. But it was one of those things that when I got injured, a lot of my scholarship offers, kind of dwindled. I had Clemson looking at me, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech, and those things dwindled once I got injured. And I didn't know really who Virginia Tech was. at the time because I wasn't really watching college. I was always watching the NFL. And so I turned him down. And later on, when I tried to go back, is now we gave away a scholarship. And I looked on a national championship, and it's Michael Vick playing Florida State. You know, so I was like, I missed that. I thought I missed that opportunity, but I still had some scholarships, some Ivy League schools, Columbia University, with Sam Carter was still upset with me at first because I didn't choose that because he was big on going beyond just football as well. And he's like, man, you go to that school, you're gonna be set. And I was like, I don't want to go there. So I actually got an academic scholarship at Florida State. Sat in my first class thinking, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna play ball or not. And within the first 5 minutes, I got called out by Mickey Andrews, who's a legendary defensive back coach at Florida State, and then my coach, Billy Sexton, the running back coach. They came in my class. The teacher called me out the first day, and I'm thinking, man, what did I do already? It's the first day of college, you know. And they pulled me out of the class and tell me, son, I know you. How would you like to play ball at Florida State? I said, of course. It's like, good. Well, you need to be at this field at 1 o'clock. And I'm like, I got a class. And they're like, no, you don't. We've already changed your schedule. So they changed my schedule knowing I was going to play. So I get there at 1. They have all the newspaper clippings and articles of me. I'm meeting with my coaches, and just odd that they knew who I was. And so I came on as what they call an invited walk-on, which I end up earning a scholarship and then also giving that scholarship back, which we'll talk about later. And it was just one of those things, like I thought I was supposed to do all this trying out. And it's like, no, son, you're not trying out. You are on the team. You know, we were looking at you as well. And we're just happy that you actually came and we saw your name in the school roster. And we knew right away that you would be one of our backs that we were going to pick up. And we wanted you on the field. So we took the liberty of changing your schedule. Didn't even consult with you, but change your schedule to make sure you can get on this field. So that was the blessing in itself. That was kind of like, okay, God's moving. So
yeah. No, that's incredible. That's even more incredible than I imagined, because from our view, we thought you actually had to walk on and earn that spot. Because we know you was out there thumping and putting the work in, but we thought that you had to walk like the traditional walk on and earn the spot. But they invited you. Wow. So they came in your class, they changed your schedule.
Yeah.
And, hey, we changed the schedule because you playing football, basically.
Right. It's a different nature there. So it was.
So as they were telling you that, like, what's going through your mind?
It was almost like a out of body experience, man. I was like, man, I can't believe this. Like, I'm talking to myself in my head, like, is this really happening?
Right.
Man, somebody must be playing a joke, you know. I was thinking, man, one of my boys has set me up with this, you know, because I mean, I knew who the coaches were, but I just was like, okay, we're gonna see. And you know, it was one of those things that I was just, you know, I just had to hold my composure in and just keep it together until they walked out. And I just couldn't believe it, man. I still had a old flip phone from Sprint back in the day. And I had to call my mom, and I had called at work and told her, and she was just really happy for me. And I was like, okay, it's really coming together. You know, this work is finally playing off. Because I mean, for a second, I got a little discouraged of, you know, man, I put in this work, I got injured, and you know, at this time, even I was actually thinking about joining the Marines. And I didn't tell anybody, you know, because they were offering me like a $60,000 or something to skip, you know, graduation and go, because I had such a high GPA. You know, I graduated with 4.28 GPA from Rickards. And so for an athlete, that was one of the highest GPAs for athletes in the state of Florida. So it was, I appreciate it, man. That was my mom, and just, you know, just staying on me, you know. So it was one of those things that when it came together, it was, you know, one of those things that kind of like a movie. One of those things you see in a movie and you don't really think that's reality, but it was my reality. So,
man, that's amazing, man. But
yeah, man,
all of that athletic accomplishments, and you still in the classroom busting the 4.2 GP. Like, oh man, like, listen, people, listen. I always tell, because I'm preaching, I'm constantly preaching about us developing the minds of our children. Because one of the reasons I started doing this particular series is I was doing a summer camp about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was two 12-year-olds. One 12-year-old was 6'3", 200 pounds.
Wow.
The other 12-year-old was like 4'7", 60 pounds. But the small one was a more high regarded athlete than the tall one. But the common factor in both was the family was expecting them to go to the league to save the family. And that always sat with me. I never really liked the fact that a whole family would depend on one person to save them through athletics when that person and everybody in the house have a brain. But then my thought was also, well, what if a severe injury happens and you never develop this person academically? Now what? And then going through my experiences as an athlete and seeing other athletes who were top-notch athletes, but their academics wasn't there, and that hurt them. So like I'm so glad you stressed that. So tune in on that, everybody, because athletics is one thing, but you have to develop the mind. Because when you develop the mind, you can't take that.
You're right. You're right. That's the thing you can never take, man.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of those things that as an athlete, a lot of people see you as just that, as an athlete. They only relate to you as an athlete, so they don't really know you outside of that. So a lot of athletes, their images are wrapped up in sports, and outside of sports, they have nothing. Which is just a segue to a quick plug. You talked about Kezia Conyers. Kezia Conyers is a phenomenal basketball athlete, but she's a more phenomenal woman and coach. She was my next door neighbor, and Kezia is, a couple years younger than me, a few years younger than me. And her brother is who actually introduced me to basketball. Shouts out to Mr. Courtney Conyers, who's also coaching. I think he's coaching Florida High girls team and has been a phenomenal coach. But she wrote this book called Going Beyond. So I'm gonna flash it real quick so y'all can see. Go Beyond. And it just talks about that a little bit about, knowing the athlete outside of athletics, which would be a segue to, get that athlete to start looking at things beyond athletics. What's going to happen when the game is over? Nobody talks about really what happens when you can't continue the game, or if you have that injury, what happens? What's next? And they always say a backup plan. I always say athletics is the backup plan. It's not just the game plan, meaning athletics is going to be an avenue maybe to possibly get you there. You get to the NFL, the average career does not last 3 years. That's why they make it 4 years before you can actually get a pension from the NFL, because most people don't. So the older I got, I learned that the acronym NFL, most people just know it as National Football League, but to us athletes, it stands for not for long, because you see the guys that have these long careers, but what they don't show you is you got it's a 53-man roster with 8 guys that's also a practice squad guys that get paid but don't get paid the same level as guys playing in that 53-man roster. And then there's so many other athletes that don't make the roster that are all-stars and all-Americans and all of this stuff. And so when they do, a lot of them in 1 year, out a year, in 2 years, out. And a lot of them don't develop anything. They come back and they just become what we call these street legends that talk about what they could and used to do, but don't have anything to fall back on because they were pushed along because of their athletic ability, but they didn't develop anything academically. They didn't develop anything using their brains, and now they're stuck not knowing what to do. So that's a really good quick book for, that's a quick read for any athlete and any parent of an athlete that you have. So
yes, great. That's a phenomenal book. I read that book like 3 times already. So I want to encourage people, go to Kezia's website. Is gobeyondsports1.com. That's the number 1. Gobeyondsports1.com. Go support her. She has phenomenal information. Get your copy of Go Beyond book. Is on her website. Go to her store page on the website. Get your copy of that book. If you got anybody in your household, in your family, who's thinking about athletics, this book gives the real on athletics, and because everybody she interviewed went through the process. So go get that book. Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, man.
So the first time you stepped on the practice field, what was that experience like, and what were some of the thoughts going through your mind? Because you like, I'm here, I'm on the field, I'm with a lot of these phenomenal athletes. Like, how did you handle it?
Oh man, the first time stepping on that field, actually, the first day we actually practiced, we actually went in the stadium that first day. We didn't go on the practice field because I came after two-a-days had already happened. You know, two-a-days happened before I was in college. So I get on that field and I look around and you see the stands and how big the stadium is. And I was just used to playing in Capitol Stadium. FAMU Stadium, you know, Bragg is where I played when we played at FAMU High. So that was like the biggest stadium I had ever played in. So when I looked around, I saw the scoreboard, you know, I saw the lights, I saw all the different, you know, logos, you know, the spear, you see the Seminole head, and I'm thinking, man, if I really got to this point, I'm really here. I'm really on this field. And then the reality of it sets in too, that, okay, I'm looking around, the athletes are big. I mean, at that point, I didn't see anybody's height, stature, or whatever. But then I look at the film of us and I see, you know, some of these guys 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", you know, 250, 260, 270. You know, I'm a freshman coming in at 183. So I just knew it was like, okay, it's time to grind. It's time to, you know, prove and show my brothers, you know, because I had two younger brothers. But altogether, I actually have 5 brothers and 2 sisters. But I was raised with 2 of my brothers, and I'm the oldest of those. So I wanted them to see that they could do whatever they put their mind to, as long as they didn't limit themselves, you know, and didn't allow the naysayers to, you know, dictate what they would do. So when I got out there on that field, it was like, okay, you know, I'm trained. I'm freight trained. I got the name freight train from a sports commentator. It was the same one who gave Devin the Rickards Express, and they called me the freight train. So it was like a train backfield. So when I got out there, the first thing I told them, man, you call me Marlon, you call me Train. And they were, you know, trying to call me all little crazy names. I had met, shouts out to Bradley Jennings, who was the superstar linebacker, who actually put the hardest hit I've ever felt in my life on me, and Stanford Samuels. I used to actually work out with those guys at Godby Track sometime, and they were working out, you know, my senior year, and they allowed me, you know, just come on. And it was like, if you come play ball out there, we got you, type thing. So I got out there, and it was like, hey, Train, man, they gunning for you. So it's one of those things like, okay, now it's time to show what I can do. And my thing was, I looked for the biggest linebacker I could find. I already knew about Bradley, so I was like, he was like the Ray Lewis of our team. So I was like, man, I'm not gonna try Bradley just right away. You know, I see what he does to guys. But we had a linebacker that was bigger than him, named we can call Black Ice. You know, and I'm gonna leave his nickname so nobody actually knows his actual name. But I mean, you research it, you'll find his name. And he was like, man, I'm gonna get you, buddy. I'm gonna get you. So I broke through the line, scored a couple times, and it was like, you know what? I'm gonna run buddy over. Like it was just kind of me talking to myself, like, man, I'm gonna run him over the next play. And I'm like, I was known for that. So I'm like, not thinking, this dude is a 275-pound middle linebacker. You know, Black Ice might be somewhere between 6'4", 6'5". So I'm not even thinking at that point of, you know, our physical differences. It's me saying, man, I'm gonna run this dude over as soon as I get this opportunity. So I break through the line, I see him, and I point at him, you know, and I point at him, let him know I'm coming. And I ran him over. And after I ran him over, everybody's like, that's the Train. I mean, and it felt great getting that type of warm, you know, accolades from your teammate, you know, on the grind. And it was like so much that Coach B, what we call Coach Bow, he ended practice early. It's like, fellas, I heard that Napier ran over Black Ice. Let's go see it on the film. And we all went in the film room and they just was dogging him out, and he was gunning for me the rest of that season. But it was one of those things that it was such a surreal moment that, man, I am a Florida State Seminole playing ball. I get to strap up this, this garnet and gold, and I'm out here on this field. And it was one of those things like, man, I had to go back home, and I went home with my, Florida State gear and just thinking, man, I'm a Seminole. I can't believe it, And it was just one of those things like, all right, you got to dig in the grind. So it's just a surreal moment knowing that all the things that I was developed at Rickards High School, Jay Gaither Giant, my coaches, my flag coaches, all of that culminated into me actually being able to get on that field. And it was just, man, surreal, man.
And shout out to Coach Eddie for Jay Gaither. Like, I never played with Jay Gaither myself. I always wanted to, but it was not in my area. My mom wasn't gonna take me over there. But talking about intimidation,
man.
Because it's like I feel like everybody who was a Jay Gaither Giant was some of the realest people I've ever met in my life, like on and off the field. So you were bred to be successful. Like it was just in you because going from Jay Gaither to Rickards to Florida State, like that's I know if you're not from Tallahassee, you don't really understand what we're saying. But this is not an easy road. We're talking about the best athletes in the city play for Jay Gaither. The best athletes in the city play for Rickards. And then you go to Florida State, one of the greatest programs in football, college football history.
Yeah, man. It was just I had those coaches that really instilled belief, because being on the south side, you didn't have access to all the things you had on the north side. You didn't have the access even when we got to Rickards, like Lincoln High School. Lincoln had, as far as football programs in Tallahassee, Lincoln had the most complete program as far as they had the full coaching staff, they had a recruiting staff, they had, guys that would just go present your stuff to colleges. Rickards, you kind of had to get it on the muscle because, your head coaches and your coaches at Rickards had to do it all themselves. They didn't have the same funding. Lincoln, they were doing all kind of stuff. They had a better film room. They would take film home, and we wasn't really taking film home unless we borrowed film because we didn't have the access to it. So we had to go and sit in a football portable and watch it, ourselves. And it was one of those things that, I took that and put that chip on my shoulder as, man, I'm the underdog. I'm not expected to be here. I got to show them why I deserve to be here, why I should be here, why they should be, not even thinking that I'm not worthy enough to be here. And that was the thing I always took from Jay Gaither, from the coaches, putting it in us. Guys, we're on the south side. They don't see us. They don't see, the strides and the daily struggles we go through and that you guys go through. You're not getting handed this stuff. We're not getting the best football pads, because we're on the south side and we're, disregarded as just a low income area. And so that was one of those things that always made me strive to say, I deserve to be here. I'm better than just these guys who get these free handouts or whose parents can afford to send them to all of these football, these football programs and these football camps, because we couldn't afford the football camps. Our football camp was us going out to the field ourselves and us grinding and us grinding with the other better athletes that couldn't do it as well. So that was one of those things that really bred the success in me was, having that underdog mentality.
So when was your actual first start as a Florida State Seminole? Like, tell me about that.
My first big game that I got in was, I think, Colorado in 2003. So I got there in 2000. What happened was I ended up getting what they call gray shirted. So it was because the people at Rickards didn't send off my NCAA clearinghouse, which all athletes have to be, have to have the NCAA clearinghouse sent. I don't care what your GPA is, what your test scores are. I tested out the water for those, but they never sent in my NCAA clearinghouse. And then Florida State tried to push it through, and they kept pushing it through, and it made a red flag when the NCAA clearinghouse, and they said after, I think it was going into the second game of the season, Maryland or something, they were like, he can't appear on the field. He can't play with you guys because his clearinghouse, we cleared him too late. It went too late through the process. So he can still be a part and affiliated with the program, but he cannot actually step foot on this field while they're on the field. So what I would have to do is when they were in the meeting rooms, I was on the field running and getting ran by my coaches, you know. Then I would come off the field, go to the meeting room while they were on the field. And I could still lift weights and do all of that stuff. So what I did that freshman year is once I would leave doing all of that stuff, I would actually go over to coach at Rickards High School. I coached their JV in 2000 as well with Coach Sweet. So that's when I came back and was doing that back and forth. So I was on the team then. So my true red shirt freshman year was 2001. 2002, had a knee injury. I tore my MCL, my left MCL, and that put me out for the season. And then 2003, I came back, and Colorado, they opened up. I had a dislocated shoulder, a fractured wrist, and a fractured ankle. So in that picture that's on my page that photographers took, it looked like something's wrapped around my arm. That was to hold my shoulder in place because I had dislocated it. So I still remember I got in. It was a 34 pitch back by Fabian Walker. Shouts out to Fabian Walker, who left Florida State, went to Valdosta State, won 2 national championships. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal brother. You know, Fabian was like, Train, you ain't gonna do nothing with this ball. I said, man, just give me the ball. Just give me the rock. You know, so I don't even think the play was supposed to be 34 pitch back. Fabian changed it so I can get the ball. So he's like, all right. And 34 pitch back is everybody on the team goes right to the right. You go back to the left. So that's why it's called a pitch back. Because it's really not going even, because normally your holes are even 2, 4, 6 to your right. And then, you know, your odd holes are to your left. So pitch back was actually not really a 34. It was one of those, we're going to throw the ball out here and you got to make it happen on your own. And if anybody reads this misdirection, you screw. You back there by yourself. And I think I picked up like 12 or 13 yards in my first carry. And that let me know, like, man, I'm here. Doing the play is like you hear everything. Now all of a sudden it went tunnel vision. I couldn't hear anything but my quarterback. And I could hear the people on the other side talking, thinking we're going to the right, because I was cheating to go to the right on purpose to make everybody shift that way, even though I was going left. And it was one of those things I didn't hear fans until after the first down. And I get up, I flip the ball, and I'm clapping, I'm shaking my head like, yeah, y'all don't know what y'all just woke up. And it was just an amazing feeling to get on that field and actually see that I could actually play at this level. So that was my first one.
What was your because I want to transition to you as an engineer in a minute, but what was your most memorable or like the standout moment for you on the field as a Florida State Seminole?
The most standout moment, I got a couple. So that one that I described, the first time I touched the ball, was one of the most standout moments. And then also, I don't really want to say it, but I have to say it. So it was the University of Florida fight that we had that UF when we won, and PK Sam got the name the Gator Killer. He caught that touchdown at the end. So a lot of people don't know what happened with that fight. So what happened was one of the UF guys, it was just starting DN at the time. He swung his helmet and he tried to hit one of us. Well, the person he tried to hit was me. I was going over to see my boy Jamel Cornelius, who's also from Fort Meade, Florida. So shouts out to Polk County to him to kind of dap up after the game. And we're going to shake hands, and Buddy just decided, oh, now I'm gonna start a war. So he swung his helmet, and my helmet was off, and he was swinging at me. And it was Darnell Dockett and Travis Johnson, 2 first-round guys, that grabbed me and pulled me back just in the nick of time. And he ended up hitting like my thigh pad or something. And I didn't really wear thigh pads or what the thigh shells. So it was sore a little bit. And as soon as they let me go, I actually threw the first punch. And so I dropped Buddy, and they grabbed, and then, the team grabbed me and kind of drug it out, and it became that brawl that you see. So it's pictures out there, and you can see a really little short Seminole in there, and that's me right in the front. But by the time I got my picture taken, in a newspaper. I was shaking hands with a guy while the rest of the melee was going on. I can't think of who that DB was at the time. He was All-American, and he was about to run, and I grabbed him, and I said, "Nah, man, the camera's right there." And that's why we were shaking hands. It wasn't that we was just being chummy. It was more so I had saved him from making a big mistake, because in the NFL, a lot of times they'll take anything they can and to pay you less because it's a business. And that's the biggest thing, was that learning that business side. So that was my other standout moment of, getting a chance to do that. So it transitioned from the fight to me getting a chance to, possibly saving the guy some money at the next level. So
that
was a standout moment. Yeah.
That's what's up, man. So like, you overcoming obstacles, just laying out excellence. So transitioning from football. So because we all have to come to that. We all get to that point to where we realize we're not playing sports anymore. So when did you get that point where you realized you wasn't playing sports? And did you know what your next move was already at that point?
So it actually happened while I was playing. So while I was playing, well, I knew I wanted to be an engineer from the 6th grade. So it was a show that came on TV back in the day, and I know Cosby gets a lot of flack, but he put on a show called A Different World, and it showed Black African Americans in college and navigating their way. And the main star was Dwayne Wayne, and he was an electrical engineer. And so that was the first thing that kind of sparked me, like, oh, I think I might like this engineering. I started looking into it. A good friend of mine who was a mentor at the time, his name's Randolph Douglas, we call him Punchy. He's an electrical engineer. And so he took me to the engineering school, and I got to sit in on one of his classes. And I just thought that was just the dopest thing ever. So when I got to Florida State, I knew going to Florida State is, I had to be an engineer. So that was really the reason I didn't go to Columbia and take the Ivy League route. They didn't have an engineering program. So at Florida State, it was the FAMU, FSU School of Engineering. So I got a chance to balance the market with both, because my parents went to FAMU, my grandparents and my uncles and aunts went to FAM. So of course, me going to Florida State was like, why are you going to Florida State? And I'm like, well, my money coming on time, and they're paying me, to go there. So, but doing the engineering school gave me the best of both worlds, because I did get to take a couple classes at FAM, so I did get some HBCU experience, not as much as everybody else. So I did go to convocation, and I did get a chance to really experience that while I was in college as well. But it was after my first knee injury that I realized, I'm only one injury away from really not playing ball, and I saw it so much. I saw it with one of the guys that came out. He was the top defensive end named Roland Seymour, and Florida State knew his knee was so tore up, but they would give him shots. They would hold him out my freshman year and only let him play in the big games, because he was going to be the big guy taking it. Well, the NFL treats you like you have to be a prime specimen once you get in the NFL, and if you got an injury, that's it. Something that big, that's it. And he didn't pass their physical. So he went from being the number one defensive guy to not even getting into the NFL because of the injuries he had. And that was one of those things I took to heart, that, I really got to have my stuff together, because at some point this game is going to be over. So in 2003 is when I got my athletic scholarship. I was on an athletic scholarship for maybe like a year. And I was told that if I didn't switch my major from engineering, because it took time on the field, off the field, because the classes were, some classes were offered once a semester. You had to have that class, and that class was during practice time, or you have to leave practice early. Basically, I was told if I didn't switch my major, then I was going to have to give up my scholarship. So I gave back my academic scholarship. My athletic scholarship, because I knew that, the chances really of me getting in the league and then staying in the league was so slim that I needed to go ahead and have myself prepared for that time. So that's what really transitioned me to the engineering world, was just knowing that it was coming at some point. I didn't know when or how, but I knew that engineering would possibly be able to take me further than I could go with sports. So I started putting more of my time in engineering. So
And
that's how I did that.
you are an engineer now, and that's
Right.
like what's cool is I know about, just off the top of my head, I can think about 5 black male engineers that I know, and
Right.
it's amazing. And most of them come from Rickards.
Right.
Most of them come from Rickards, and it's man, y'all just don't know like the paths that you all are blazing. And what's crazy is Caleb Davis. We grew up like
Yeah,
we've
Caleb
been
Day,
best
yeah.
friends for the longest, and so we used to meet at the engineering building because that was the midpoint between my house and his house. So the engineering building was one of the places growing up, like
Right.
elementary and high school, that we used to like hang out at. And we
Yeah.
never thought though that we didn't realize what was going on in the building. We didn't
Right.
realize that black people could actually be engineers until I got to FAMU, and Fred Sweet and Chimo
Yep.
Onwanli.
Yep.
And those were the first 2 like black male engineers that I really was like, wow, these are engineers, and they're still engineers to this
Yep.
day. And Fred is doing a great job with
Oh
his
yeah.
businesses and things. But man, like, you all open doors. You all have laid the path for others to come behind you. And then you gave up your athletic scholarship. You had your academic scholarship, and you end up becoming the first athlete to graduate from the FAMU FSU College of Engineer.
So the first electrical engineer athlete. So it's been some other, right. So it's been some other engineers, like a couple industrial, which is an easier engineer, but it's still an engineer and still not like just easy. One of my homeboys there was mechanical, but everybody in the EE program would flunk off the team, or they would have to quit football. And so I was the first to complete that. I didn't know that until my graduation date. So when I walked across the stage to graduate, Dean Chen, who ended up retiring, and he knew my auntie, the Napiers, Jamara Napier. He gave me a hug on stage, and this was like my second time meeting Dean Chen, and he said, "Now I can finally retire." That's what he's like. You realize you're the first electrical engineer that graduated playing football from FAMU or FSU that finished and completed the program. And I was the only person he hugged, and I still have a picture of that, I think, at my mom's house, of the dean hugging me. And that was like the surreal moment. Like, I didn't even realize that was something that I had done until he told me, and until I got back and I confirmed it. And I just was like, didn't even think that that's what I was doing. I just was thinking, man, I need to do something that's gonna bring joy to me, but also honor to my family as well, and give my brother something to strive for. So that was pretty dope.
So how were you able to manage your football schedule with your academic schedule?
Oh man, that was crazy, man. That was one of those things that I can say that was just God, man. A lot of times I didn't sleep as much, because I was the only electrical guy. So I didn't get a tutor like the other team, because my tutors were costing too much. So back in 2000 to 2005, that area, the tutors were like $20-something an hour back then. So which was high for engineering. So they told me, because I was an engineer and I was smart and I was already helping some of the other tutors out, that I wasn't going to get a tutor. So I kind of had to grind that one on my own. So a lot of late nights at engineering school. So sometime I would be up to engineering school 1, 2 in the morning, and then have to turn around and go to tour days and mat drills at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and be there at 6 o'clock. So I still remember sleeping in the dorm sometime with Chris Ricks, because he had the extra bed. So going tour days, I would just come over, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll just leave the back door open, man. You just come in." And so, because I still lived on the south side, which is still a little further away. So when you're trying to drive to get practice and find a park and do all of that at 6 in the morning, or 5 in the morning, it's really hard and difficult, and it's easy for you to oversleep. So that was that thing, and I just grinded out that way, and that was really the thing. The time management was just making the time to do what my real passion was as well. It was engineering as well. So it was one of those things that when they would go study, I would study on my own. I would just take any little time in the day, any break I could to study and try to stay on top of it. So
right. So shout out to you, because when in saying that, you take me back to when you were talking about you eating lunch on your way to the weight room in Rickards, and you were using all the time that you have, and you doing whatever it takes to get to your goal, and because it's something that you really, really, really wanted. So I know it was when everything came together, and it hit you that the first electrical engineer athlete to graduate with this degree. I know it was all satisfying because all the work that you've put in from the beginning to that day, man. Congratulations to you on that.
I appreciate it, man. It was, I can say I couldn't do it without my family support. I had some great engineering family, some great football family that was guys that was standing behind me. So, guy you mentioned, Antoine Bowman, was one of those guys. We both, when I had my second knee injury, I tore my other MCL and he tore his ACL, and we were rehabbing at the same time. And over that time, we got a little close. And he's also a man of faith, and it was one of those things. He was like, "Man, train. You just keep doing what you need to do. Don't quit." And I saw his work ethic, and I can honestly say he was one of those guys that will work just as hard or harder than I did, although he had all of the talent in the world. He had all the physical attributes. You know, he had the biggest hands I've ever seen from a person that's his height, you know, because he's actually the shortest, one of the shorter guys in his family. His cousin Ronald Bolden played with us. He was also a lineman, and Ron is like 6'7".
Right.
Anquan's dad is tall. And so Anquan had big hands, like he should have been 6'7", and just didn't grow there. But so he always worked. You know, he's the only guy I saw, like how we look at Odell Beckham catching balls with one hand. I used to see this with Anquan all day, every day. So for me, that's not so exciting or special. It's like, oh, that's a hell of a catch. But, you know, Anquan used to do that off the jugs machine running slants. And that ball is coming so fast. And the coach was like, Anquan, two hands. And he said, it's too easy with two hands. So I practice doing the impossible and the hard now. So when I'm forced to do it in the game, it's second nature. So I've been catching with two hands my whole life. So that's easy. And I've rarely ever seen him drop a ball. So shouts out to him for, you know, that motivation.
Yeah. So that's also some insight into what I feel was one of the best wide receiver careers I've had to witness in the NFL. So definitely shout out to Anquan, because he don't know. Like, I remember our senior at Rickards, myself, Doc Love, Caleb, I think Sammy, but a lot of us used to try to go different places and do one-on-one. So I remember watching Anquan Bolden and Levy Brown from FAMU do one-on-one. And it was crazy because, you know, Anquan is like huge, and Levy is like little 5'9", 175, and but just being able to see that in the work ethic. But also another thing was, I'm gonna never forget this in my life. Leroy Smith.
Oh yeah,
like
one of my brothers.
I need to shake that man's hand, because Leroy Smith was a great inspiration on me. This man was calling receivers routes out 3 steps into the route, and that's what they ran. And I was like, well, how did he know that? But then when I realized it was the work that he put in, the time that he put in to really study the game. So this is the environment that you come from, where excellence is pursued. Like, this is just what we do. We pursue excellence and nothing else. Like, that's, man, but for you to be in that environment and to also stand out athletically and academically is a testament to you and your family, and just everything that you all have put in just as individuals. And once again, shout out to your brother, because being able to watch him become a great chef as well. So
yeah, man, he found his passion, and you know, I'm so proud of him, man. I'm extremely proud of Jarvis. Just really knowing that, because he was really at first a really shy kid, and I broke him out of that. I drug him along and told him, "Oh, you're gonna play ball. And if you're not gonna play ball, I'm gonna fight you." You know, it was more so one of those things that I wanted him to find his way, and the only way I knew how to was how I found my way. And
Right.
by doing that, he found out he was great in ROTC, had a scholarship offer to West Point, but he knew his passion was cooking. And, was able to do a program with the governor back then. I think it was, I don't know which governor it was back then, maybe Lawton Childs, I think, back then. Yeah, it was Lawton Childs, because Childs High School was just about to get ready to just open in 2000. So he got a chance to do that, and that was his passion. And so him following that, I'm so proud of him. So yeah, man.
So what, like, as an engineer now, so where are you working now? What are you doing now as an engineer?
So as an engineer, I'm doing project management, reliability engineering, process engineering. So which is almost out of the realm for electrical engineering. So when I go to places, I'm normally one of the only electrical engineers doing process engineering and reliability engineering. Normally that's mechanical or chemical engineering type background. So doing that process is, so I've done engineering in a lot of different facets, from just machine, working for subcontractor for the military. I've done that twice, and making batteries, making cans. So all kind of stuff like that is what I've been doing. So I do a lot of project management. I also develop a lot of other younger engineers. It's what I do. So it's always a tough one, because in engineering, the higher I climb, I find that I'm normally one of the only Black engineers in the entire company a lot of times, or in that area. So for me, it's just so imperative that I put my best foot forward, because I know it opens up a path for another person that looks like me to come into that company, to come into that position, to fill that role. Because as engineers, we do get the same thing. Being an African American, you do get the looked over a lot, just because you have to be that much better than the guy that's white, so it's really one of those things that I feel like I have to break down these racial barriers and these, this systemic mindset that's been, pushed by the media, that, Black people are inferior, which is so far from the truth that everybody knows. But it's one of those things that I have to go in and grind daily to show that I am, good or better than my white counterparts, to get that recognition. And my thing has really just always been the generation behind me, the people behind me, because for me, I'm going to keep pushing. I don't think engineering is going to be my last stop at all. I'm looking to go to the executive level, and that's why I'm getting the MBA, so I can have that backing to do so. But it's a lot of engineers out there that do look like me, and it's starting to become a little more popular. We're trying to continue that, that STEM programs coming out, especially for our people. And I feel it's like a responsibility that I have to make sure that I leave a lasting impression, so that when that next Black engineer comes, male or female, the companies don't look at them with a side eye, but they look at them on an even playing field. So
Do you know a young lady by the name of Dr. Latasia Jones with the Florida State?
I don't think I know Miss Jones.
Okay.
Maybe if I see her.
I'm going to connect you to, because she does a lot of interviews, and she uses her platform for a lot of Black people in STEM. And you two need to meet, because I'm pretty sure you two can help each other. So I'm going to connect both of you through Facebook Messenger, because that needs to happen. That needs to happen.
Definitely.
So and as I was reading in about you, and you were talking about breaking down racial barriers, as you were just explaining, it made me feel good, because we need that. Like you say, the academic prowess of Black people is always overlooked. It's always on athletics, entertainment, acting, music, and those things. And they, the stereotypical view is black people aren't smart. So what message do you have for the up and coming young black people, young black men, young black women who want to take the STEM route, but may be discouraged by their environment, may be discouraged by their family, or may be discouraged from the fact of somebody telling them that they're not smart enough? What message do you have for those?
The message I have for you guys is to really just stay focused. Be true to yourself, first of all. Don't take the path that everybody else takes. It's always a road that's less traveled for a reason. Because I mean, acting and sports and athletics, all that is great, and music, but that's something that's part of our culture, part of our history. But it's also something that's patterned itself from slavery, from when we were the entertainment. You know, we were the better athletes because we were out there doing all the work, doing all the skills. So, you know, coming right out of slavery, we were the only skilled laborers. We knew how to do that work. So we were those people, and then developing the athletics. You know, we could always run because we were trying to run away. You know, we could always jump, we could always do that type of stuff. And we always knew how to act, because even now, a lot of us are actors and don't even realize it. And when I say actors, meaning it's a way we speak when we're home, and it's a way we speak when we're corporate America. So in essence, you're acting every day, because you have to switch up. It's almost like a whole different language you have to speak when I'm at work. You know, I can't be like, what's up, dog, or what up, you know, my G, or whatever to my people at work. And so it's one of those things that you just continue to push for what you want. If you have a passion for any science or technology, engineering or mathematics, push. Those are things that they can't take away from you. Those are things that you can show that you're superior in just by taking that test and doing that self. Math, numbers speak for themselves, you know. So if that is your passion, you make sure you push it. You make sure you put yourself around some people with like-mindedness. That doesn't have to be STEM, but they have to be positive people that is going to help encourage you, because there are going to be some difficult times when you go through things, you know. Is some people just are naturals and don't have those. But for me, I had to learn to study when I got to college, because it was different, you know. And so it was a lot of times I'm there by myself, or I'm there with other engineers, and it was one of those things where you have to have perseverance. You can't, you know, just let naysayers, because it's easy for people to tell you what they think you should do when they've never done it. You know, it's always easy for people to say, oh man, these millionaires need to invest their money in this and invest their money in that, but they've never had $1 million. They don't know the pressures of having $1 million. They don't know the tax bracket, you know, rules of a millionaire. They don't understand how certain things work. They just understand small, tiny bits of things and try to project that on you. So don't allow somebody else to project on you what they think you should do. You should internalize that, and you should do what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, you need to make yourself happy. And you can't look at happiness as an outside thing. It's one of those things that Will Smith talked about in his marriage, that it's not his job to really make his wife happy. And it's not her job to make him happy. And that kind of hit me. I'm like, what? Nah, bruh. You know, you always hear the stuff like the happy wife, happy life, you know, happy, you know, happy spouse, happy house type thing. But the thing is if you don't have happiness within, you can't project it without, you know. So I can't make you happy if you're not happy. If you don't want to be happy, there's nothing I can do to change you, you know. So for yourself, you have to make sure that you're true to yourself. You know, if STEM is what makes you happy, go for it. Go for it with everything. Don't half step. You know, you might have time to doubt, but turn that doubt into motivation. You know, almost challenge yourself with that. So that's my message to you guys. Like, I can do it. You know, I did it, and you know, I'm not no different from you guys. I didn't come from a silver spoon place. I had to, as we say, grind, get it out the mud, grind every day. You know, and that was the thing is, if I can do it, you know, I'm no different from you. The only difference is I'm just a different person. So
there you go. There you go. So when do you graduate with your MBA?
I should graduate my MBA in November. I might be able to pull it to October. So I'm
Okay.
actually, I can tell you, I'm doing it through WGU, Western Governors University. It's a fully online school that I was doing. I was trying to do it at FAM, but I couldn't really get it through at FAM to start when I wanted to start. My goal was to have my MBA complete before my son turned 3. So I have a son.
Right.
He's 2 years old. He's the second. I named him, Marlon Napier the second instead of Junior, just because I wanted to change that. I know it's not really the right way to name a child. He should be a junior based on how naming nomenclatures go, but I put him the second because junior is always referred to as a little version of the senior.
Right.
I didn't want him to
Right.
be a little version of me. I need him to be a better version of me because he's starting in a place that I didn't have to start. So he doesn't have to know what it's like to live in the hood, to see his homeboys getting shot, to run from bullets. He don't have that. His environment is totally different. So I named him the second because he's like Marlon 2.0. He's the better version of me, which is I feel is my responsibility as his father to put him in a place that he can excel and exceed far easier than I did. So his job is to continue to advance our name. And it was one of those things to say you grind for your last name, not your first. So I want to make sure that my family, just doing what I'm doing, is pushing my family out of, the position we came out of. And shouts out to my mom who, worked 2-3 jobs, just to make sure that me and my brothers could eat and could. I don't even know how she did it, with 3 boys, with the salary she made back then, because now it's one of those things. I look at the salary I make and it's so many more times more than what she made. And I'm thinking about maybe, this is a difficult decision. Excuse me. I think about my mom and how she did what she did. And I never knew, like, it's one of those things when you're in it, you never realize what you don't have,
Right.
It wasn't until I became an adult that I realized that we didn't have a lot. I remember I didn't eat at Applebee's until I was in high school.
Right.
Right. And I thought Applebee's was just the mecca at that point. And then I got to Applebee's and was disappointed. I was like, what? So that's the biggest thing. So that's why, my goal is to finish it, November. He won't be 3 until July. But that was my thing, is I wanted to make sure I was done with schooling so I can spend as much time with him doing his developmental part. And shouts out to his mom as well. My fiance, Dr. Tempest Hill, and she's a Black doctor, works with the CDC. And she also went to HBCU in Georgia, which was called Payne College, which I don't think Payne is even around anymore. And she went to Georgia Southern. So that being, we're his images. He has a doctor for a mom and a dad that's an engineer and an athlete. So I wanted to make sure he had that world open to him. So that's, why I'm pushing also for the NBA too.
Now, congratulations, because that's one thing that I'm on is I think we got to start bringing children in the world when we have our stuff together, when we're in a better situation than we can, and we can help it. I know everything is an idea, but if we can help it, let's try to make sure we are one of the best versions of ourselves when we're bringing children to the world, so we can give them every opportunity that they need, because we know we came from the struggle. We know we got it out the mud. We don't have to keep doing that. So
it's kind of one of those things we was talking about earlier. I mean, like me, I don't eat pork. I'm not gonna knock anybody that eats pork or anything, because it's more so not religious reasons that I would like people to think, I'm just so following the Bible that I don't eat pork. Nah, it's not that, man. It's just me trying to take care of my health. The men in my family die from, heart attacks, and high blood pressure runs in my family on both sides. So all the men in my family, from my granddad father's side to my dad's side, my mom's side to my dad's side, they have all died from heart attacks, every last one. So for me, I made a conscious decision that, okay, is this eating this meat worth dying? And I'm like, nah, it's not. And so that's why I don't. But I used to eat chitlins back in the day. Chitlins and rice used to be my thing with the hot sauce. But I mean, chitlins aren't really a very nutritious meal. It really
Right.
wasn't made for nutrients.
Right.
But it's one of those things that was taught to us, so we keep doing it, and you don't have to repeat it. I mean, not knocking it. If you like it, do it. You know, but it's one of those things that you shouldn't have to. You know, you should evolve. You know, from where you were to something more, something greater. Not saying forget where you came from at all, but
Right.
that was one of those conversations we was having. Like, you know, we ate chitlins back in the day because we had to. That was the parts of the pig of the feast that, you know, the slave owners didn't eat. So basically, you had to find a way to feed your family with what you had, and that's what they were doing. And you know, our grind of being the best versions of ourselves for our kids, we don't want our kids to have to go through that same grind. But sometimes we get stuck in that cycle of teaching them this is the grind, and you do that. I don't want my child to have to worry about, you know, how we're gonna pay the light bill, or if the when the rent's due, like, or when the mortgage is due, or, you know, are we gonna have a car, or is he gonna get repo? Like, that's not what I want him to worry about. What he needs to worry about is being focused on schooling and the lessons that I'm trying to teach him. So finance is one thing I'm gonna be, you know, instilling them, because even while we were talking about athletes, a lot of athletes don't have any clue about finance. So you take a guy that was raised in the hood, never had a lot of money, and then all of a sudden you give him $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, and you wonder why he's, you know, buying, you know, $100,000 chains and all of this. It's because that's what he saw. You know, I mean, we live through entertainment a lot of times, and we see the entertainers with these big chains and these fancy cars and these huge houses, and think that's what we're supposed to do. Like, I made it. But then when you really see people that really have wealth, they're not flossing it like that. Or if they're flaunting it, it's in a way that you don't understand unless you're wealthy enough. Just like the difference of the hem of your shirt might be different, you know, because it's a specialized shirt, but it looks to you like a regular shirt. But somebody who has the money knows, oh, okay, I know what he's doing. You know, they're not out there, like, not saying don't get some of the things that you strive for and you like, but I mean, that's going to be a thing. So that's really one of the biggest reasons why I don't wear like a huge chain. You know, it wasn't that I don't like it, because I remember in college I had a huge chain, you know, because I was thinking, yeah, man, I'd have made it. You know, I needed that, but it was one of those things that I see that my people fall in the same cycle of, you know, trying to get these things, and all it does, it makes you an easier target, you know. So you have those things. The first thing they think is, okay, he's an entertainer, or he sells dope, or he does this, you know. And as you can see with all the police stuff going on, and all the, you know, racial profiling that happens, you know, it's one less thing for you to give them to profile you on. And just that's just my biggest thing. So that's why, you know, stressing finances to my kid is like going to be my elevating point, because I didn't learn about finances until college and some after college. So I made some bad decisions with credit cards, and, you know, thankfully I don't have any credit card debt now. You know, I can say I paid that off, and I have zero credit card debt. You know, I have a card that I use, but I don't let it go beyond 30 days, because if somebody had to educate me on that as well. So yeah, man, that's, you know, why I grind so hard and what I'm trying to do too.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you on so many levels. I'm this interview, like, this was a great one, man. Like, you dropped a lot of jewels, but also because, and one of the main reasons I think we accomplished that goal is, you know, when we was talking before the interview, is your story, but then being able to get deeper into the story, learn more of the details to the story. It's like you overcame so much, you made so much happen for yourself, and you wanted it. You knew what you wanted. You were absolute about it, and you stuck to your guns. No matter what happened, no matter the setbacks, you stuck to your guns. Not only did you meet your athletic goals, but you met your academic goals, and you were able to meet your monetary goals, your financial goals.
Still grinding toward it, man. It's the grind isn't over.
Right. But the blueprint is there, the foundation is there, and we know you're gonna reach your goal because you are an achiever. We already know that because it's already instilled into you. So everybody who sees this, everybody who's watching, if you want it bad enough and you're willing to put the work in and you're willing to surround yourself with people who can help you or who can even just motivate you, anything you want to do, is possible. This man right here, Marlon Napier, is an example of you believing in yourself. What happens when you believe in yourself? Anything is possible, man. I definitely appreciate you. So how can people get in contact with you?
Oh man, you can get in contact me with on Facebook. I respond. Just look up Marlon Napier. You'll see my picture, or you'll see a picture of me and my son, or something like that. On IG, I think it's Mr. underscore Napier 22, and I respond back to messages. Because at the end of the day, I've always learned what good is it for me to gain and attain a lot of things if I can't give back. If I'm only beneficial to myself, I'm no good.
Right.
What good is it for a man to gain everything and lose his soul? And my thing is, my community is so important to me. Any community where I am and I see people that look like me, I'm going to try to reach back. I'm going to try to give, just like Brother Joseph Ward has done so many times. And he's an inspiration to me because I see him writing books, him writing things like it's so much about our history as a people we don't know because we're not taught. And looking in Joseph's books, it shows you this, and it shows you these great, people that look like us, these kings and these warriors and these inventors and these writers and everything that we're not taught that, and that's the thing is we have to educate ourselves in the community. And the only way we can is we could start picking up books, and that's the hardest thing for, Black children. It's not hard to pick up the book. Is you haven't really been taught to just pick up books unless you just come from that household, because it's so easy to watch stuff on TV, but picking up that book is one of those things. And I appreciate you so much, Joe, for what you're doing in the community, because you're out there grinding in the community daily, and you're an inspiration to me, my brother. Just having you sign that book, man, was just one of the biggest things for me. Is that's something I can have. My son's gonna be able to see this book. He's gonna learn from this book. He'll read this book and then he'll say, "Daddy, you know this guy?" "I do. This is one of Daddy's friends, and this is one of Daddy's longtime friends." Right. And that you kind of push him in that direction, because I'm not gonna limit him to sports. I'm not gonna limit him to, I'm gonna let him do whatever. If he says, "Daddy, I don't want to play sports," son, you ain't gotta play sports. You ain't gotta go out there and bang your head. You don't have to do that. You can take another avenue. So yeah, if you guys want to reach out to me, you can. If you have a son or a daughter or just someone that needs talking to, that they might need to hear this enforcement from someone outside the household. Because for me, I know it was those people outside the household that help influence me, those men. And shouts out to my mom, Melanie Lewis, for putting me around those positive men that could speak into my life. And it was easy to accept her lessons, getting them reinforced from outside. So definitely reach out. I'll respond. Again, I'm pretty good about responding. I check my social media, a few times a week. Sometimes since the pandemic, it's been like every day. Trying to see how people are living and what's going on. But yeah, I can be reached that way, man. And again, thank you for having me on, man. You man. Definitely cherished in my eyes, you and your brother Wallace. I love you guys, man. You my brothers. So
too, man. Definitely, there's love everywhere, because like I say, from the beginning, you showed me love. So I love you too, bro, because you and your brother showed me and my brother love from the beginning. And it's always been a great experience. And I'm happy that we're able to learn from each other and inspire each other. So shouts out to you, shouts out to your family, and I just wish you more and more success on your journey.
Definitely, man. I appreciate it. And the last thing I have to shout out is my barber, Steve the barber. You gotta, if you're in the Atlanta area, just look him up. Cuts by Steve the barber, and dope brother. He has a phenomenal story as well, from Chicago, and has his own business and really doing well, so he didn't get caught up in that Chicago life where he was caught up at for a little bit. So
Right.
shouts out Steve the barber, you know. But of course, I still got my barbers back home. It's too many to name, so I'm not gonna do that because I know how it is. You shout out one barber, don't shout out the next. I got to see you in the street. So
Right. Now that's cool, man. But I ain't gonna take up no more of your time. But once again, this was phenomenal. It definitely exceeded expectations. And I'm going to let you know now. This is gonna go out, but I'm actually going to release this interview twice because I usually take after episode 31, I usually take a break. But in my break, I'm going to release the audio of this so that this can go out. So this interview is going out twice.
Definitely, man. I appreciate that, my brother. I appreciate that.
No problem.
However, we can reach our people, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Once again, I love you, my brother, and I'm definitely gonna be talking to you soon.
Love you too, bro. You have a blessed day. You guys have a blessed day as well. And remember, you are your only limiting factor. Don't limit yourself.
There you go. Just like he said. See y'all next time. Peace out.
I see y'all. Peace.
Sure.